I don't hear you. Okay, all right, we're live. My wife just gave me a thumbs up, so we're live. This is live chat with How to Build Your Own Home every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Welcome aboard. Some thoughts to consider when it comes to subcontractors. In my industry, things change a lot. People's personality changes. During the course of a person's career, things change. And a lot of times we're not ready for that. Let me give you a good example. I could have a good relationship with a subcontractor, and then because I show friendship and I build relationships, and everything that I do is based upon a relationship. In my business networking uh, meeting this morning, we were talking about niche, and everybody has a niche. I have a drafts person in my network, and his niche is time. He likes to take more time to design his plans. He charges a little more, but he wants to build that niche. But that requires a network of support. It requires a lot of people to build that rapport. Um, a lot of subcontractors build up a name after 10, 15, 20 years in a local market, and their niche is the contacts they've made over a period of time. Okay. But things change. I've noticed that some subcontractors that I've built a relationship with, and then that relationship is somewhat abused, or it's taken advantage of. And when that happens, I sever that relationship, meaning I don't offer any more business to that particular subcontractor. And so you want to find out when you're going out there to get a bid, you really want to find out how hungry they are and how eager they are to grab more work. For example, I just called an engineering company that does geotechnical work. I've been working with this company now for 12, 13, 14 years, somewhere in that range. And I've sent them a lot of work. And they just called. I called them. I said, I like this schedule for some geotech work. And they says, we're no longer taking residential work. And I go, no longer taking residential work? Well, we're just too busy. Too busy. And so what kind of work are you taking? We're just strictly commercial now, and we do government and commercial work. And I'm saying to myself, that's a business that doesn't want to grow. That's a business that's creating a limited niche for themselves. Okay. And you want to kind of be aware of companies and subcontractors that are narrowing their niche. Okay. When that happens, they're less interested in you and not really eager to give you a bid. I'm hoping I'm making myself clear here, because this is really, really, really pertinent to finding subcontractors who really, really want to work with you. I have some subcontractors that they know that if it wasn't for me, they would not be successful. They would not be in the business. They would not have been able to grow. So they know that they're very thankful for me for helping that out in their careers. I know other subcontractors that I helped out a long time ago, because I gave them such great work, that over time they expected that work. And then when I found out that they weren't interested in maintaining the quality that I wanted from them, I stopped using them. And then they start calling me, what's wrong? What's wrong? Well, I'm not going to tell them what's wrong. They should know inside their own business. For example, one I stopped using because he was going out and scabbing labor, meaning I'd give him a job. He'd go out and scab labor to come and do the job, but he would never be there to manage the work. I was having to manage his own workers. And I go, guys, I can go out and scab labor left and right. Now, I don't need to have that headache. So I stopped using that subcontractor. So you have to really, when you're listening to people, their communication is going to reveal a lot to you, how fast they communicate to you, meaning that means that their niche, their spectrum of people that they're going to bid for is wide open. If they respond quickly, that means their niche is wide open. If they don't respond pretty quickly, at least within 3 days, that means that they're either too busy and they don't care, and they've got enough work for a month and a half. And a lot of subcontractors think like that. However, if you've already established a relationship with them, then they know that's part of their niche. They don't want to let go of that because that's somewhat of their bread and butter. So what I'm getting at is you're kind of up against a little bit of a difficulty because you're new. That's why you don't want to call yourself an owner builder. You don't want to give off the impression that you're getting a one-off job with somebody. That's why you set up a fake email. It says Joe and Sissy's builder at something Gmail. Okay, call yourself something builder at a Gmail, and at the bottom of your Gmail, give your signature. And a lot of people don't do this. The signature is basically your email. I'll give you an example here. This here is my email. Okay, and you can see I have my logo, I have my email, I have my phone number on there. And so when somebody gets an email from me, hey, looking for a bid on this, can you get that to me? Now I'm coming off as a professional. They see that I'm a professional. You don't have to have a website, but you can have a Facebook page with a couple of pictures, making yourself look like a builder. You want to fit within people's niche, is what I'm trying to do. And if you find out what their niche is and what their bread and butter is, and when you submit a bid to that, then you're fitting within inside their spectrum. So it's interesting that things change, and the more networking you can do, the more powerful you're going to be as an owner builder. And finding those networks, and I have a group of people that I know in Idaho, and they got so tired of not really having a resource for subcontractors. They actually created kind of an owner builder network, but they just called themselves a builder network. But they were a bunch of owner builders. And so by doing that, they invited other people to their network, and they treated it just like a regular business network. And as a result, they were able to get a lot of different subcontractors to bid on the work because the subcontractor sees that network as, oh, that's a potential constant bread and butter situation. And then they're more eager to give you bids. So I wanted to give you that feedback. I know that the market is a little different right now. In some areas, it's a soft market. So you're going to actually see a lot of subcontractors more eager to give you work. But I don't live in that particular environment. I live in an environment where there's a lot of work still even right now, especially a lot of commercial. My community is one of the top 5 in the nation for new business startups. So there's a lot of commercial, a lot of growth, a lot of stuff. It's a real popular place to move to. So I'm dealing with both soft on the residential market, busy on a lot of other commercial markets. And so I'm constantly finding new people. Now and I'll leave this with you and we'll start answering some questions. If you were an NBA owner and you owned an NBA team, a National Basketball Association team, a franchise team, you are going to want a bench as well as your main players, your star players. You're also going to want a strong bench. When you have both, and sometimes even a third string, remember in high school, you'd have first string, second string, third string on the football team. And those secondary benches and third string types of players, and the deeper they are, the stronger they are, the more powerful you are as a builder and as an owner builder. So as you're networking, find first and second and third string players that could possibly serve you in a lot of different capacities. I have to do that as a builder. If I'm not getting to, like I had a talk with my daughter, I said, let's have lunch next week and let's talk about the areas on our team where we are lacking or deficient on having a secondary bench. So we're going to have lunch next week and the next week after and talk about that, because I'm getting calls every other day. Hey, you looking to bid on some stuff? We'd love to get some bids on that. We have some people we really like a lot. We worked well with them. Others that they're on the outs and we're wanting to get rid of them, and we're wanting to bring in new different subcontractors. This is what I deal with as a builder. And I'm sure that you'll feel some of this as an owner builder, but I wanted to give you some perspective that you want to try to fit within people's niche. The more you can find out what that niche is and give yourself the impression that you're a builder, you're going to fit just nicely with inside the opportunity to get some bids. Well, if you have any questions on that, hit me up with them. Let's go ahead and start answering some questions from people. So we got Kai. Welcome, Kai. Backfill is complete. Cool. Awesome. Should we put road base in the patio and garage areas before pouring the slab? If so, when? You mentioned to hold off on the slab until stucco is finished. Yeah, the garage, because you patio and garage areas, definitely the garage and definitely the patio. Go ahead and put some road base on there. Here's something to think about. You want to get the garage poured before you start to frame. And why? Because concrete subcontractors use what's called a bow float. And it's a long, like 20-foot bar. And they use that to float that garage to get it nice and smooth. If you wall that off on all three sides, it's really hard to get a nice float inside that garage. It's hard to reach and get access to it. So I always get that poured right after the main slab or foundation's poured. Like I've got a home that we poured this morning on a job. If I can show you here, really, really cool. Right here, you can actually see that. That's a foundation they poured this morning, and they're going to pour the garage tomorrow. And the neat thing is we are going to actually start framing next week. So all of that's done, but I'm going to save the porch for later. I'm not going to do the front porch. I'm not going to do the back porch. Why? Because that can tend to get damaged, and I don't like the stucco guys to drop their stuff on there. So wait on the finished flat work, but at least get your garage poured right after. Good question, though. Kai, how thick should the road base be? It depends on your soils. If your soils are somewhat collapsible, 6 inches. If they're really rigid and there's a lot of aggregate and it really compacts nicely, maybe 4 inches. But that road base is going to give a stabilizing compacted force to your slab. If you've got any organic matter inside your soils, you got to get that out. If your soils tend to be weak, it's really hard to get a compaction. Get that road base in there. I've had more success on my slab work and flat work when I put a little bit of road base underneath there, and I have very few problems. You do have cracks, they happen, but if your control cuts are put in the right spot, all the better. And then when it comes to garage, I don't do a joint pour. I use a cut pour. What do you call it? A control cut. I don't do the joint, which is kind of a V shape that's opened up, and I don't like them. I don't like them for anything, to be honest with you. I like a 3/4 inch cut right into the concrete within 14 to 18 hours after it's poured, and it makes a nice clean cut. As a side note, my concrete guy called me this morning because we're doing a home, and I'm going to do a video on it. It's going to be very exciting, and we're going to do a power wash on the concrete 3 hours after the concrete is surfaced so we can expose the aggregate. And they called me and says, we're going to do control cuts on that. Great. And I said, can we do 4 foot on center rather than 10 foot on center? Yeah, we can do that. What does that mean? Typically on a control cut, your slab is poured. You've got to do a cut that's 3/4 inch deep every 10 feet to control where the hairline cracks are going to happen. Well, we shortened that to 4 feet on center because that's going to be a better pattern and better looking inside the home. I'm very excited to see how that's going to look. They said, not a problem, we'll do that. So something to think about. Peyton, Keith, so is it okay to pay for materials up front or after first draw? I don't know what for what particular subcontractor or particular area of the build that you're talking about. I'm very cautious about buying materials up front, like lumber or something, and letting it sit. You don't want that to happen. If the materials can sit and there's not a threat of it being stolen or weathered, then yeah, that might be okay. But I really don't like to buy things up front. I do it right after the first draw. As those draws come in, then I pay things as they go. If you see something on sale and you see a lighting fixture or something, and you get it on sale, great. You buy it and put it in storage, and then you use it when it's needed. I can see and understand that. Or if you get an opportunity to get something at wholesale in a large bulk amount, you need that amount for the home build, and you can get it on sale, and it's not going to weather and have some problem in the weather. Fine, that's great. Like I'm doing a couple of builds, and I'm trying to package a couple of things all at once. So I'm hoping I can get some good deals on some materials like rigid insulation. If I can get that a whole truckload for a couple of builds at once, and I can save, that'd be a possibility. So just be very careful on that. Okay. Nice.
I added this just so everybody knows. On Discord, we have the Pacific Northwest now, because I know you guys have been asking about that. So just a heads up on Discord.
Okay. Thanks, honey. Hi, Keith. Thank you for adding Pacific Northwest on Discord. Yes. Okay. I love the Pacific Northwest. Question: what's a good pay system? Pay them half now and half later? What do you use? Scammer, signs, etc. When it comes to construction, let's say, for example, it's framing. I will handle the lumber package. I don't have them handle the lumber package. And then when they frame the first floor, I'll give them a certain amount, whatever they draw. And the second one would be the second floor. And then if it's only 2 floors, then I would withhold like $2,000 or $3,000 until I get inspection. Once inspections pass and once my mechanical is all in and all my blocking and all my mechanical is blocked in, then I would release the last $2,000 or $3,000. But every different subcontractor is different. Plumbing is going to be 3 different draws. Typically, electrical is going to have maybe 3, possibly 4 different draws. Every different subcontractor is different. Most of them are 2. Some of them are just 1. And so you want to just find out from each one how many draws are going to be requested and kind of going to be prepared for that. Michael, for driveway base, pros and cons of 57 stone versus RC6 recycled concrete. I would do recycled concrete on that one. The stone might have a little bit too much native soils or clay soils in there. And the recycled concrete, especially if it's broken down to less than 2 inch or 1.5 inches in size. But I like it when it's got a little bit of concrete or smaller aggregate that's 1.5 inches mixed in with some sand and maybe a little bit of some native soils in your area. And all of the smaller stuff fits right inside the larger stuff, and it seems to lock in. Even better if the aggregate is jagged, and recycled concrete is going to be somewhat jagged. If it's just round like polished rock or pea gravel, then it has a tendency to get pushed around, just like you go to McDonald's and there's that bubble thing where kids jump in. Well, if all of those were jagged, it wouldn't be fun to jump in. It would be more rigid. So the more jagged your concrete, the better, and that's going to be the case with concrete. But if the stone is a granite, not a sandstone or something like that, and it's jagged, it could be just as good. But I like the mixture of a little bit of sand, a little bit of a crushed aggregate concrete or something like that, and the small stuff fits inside the big stuff, and it makes it great. So, Spice, how do you manage bids if they are only good for 30 days when it takes several months to build? Most of them will honor their bids, except for the really unscrupulous ones. And it's the unscrupulous ones you want to watch out for. And you never know. Before they start, you say, is this bid still good? And if they reply good, you've got a documentation of that in email, and then you hold them to it. So you can do that just before they start. I just had a subcontractor add $1,500 on a bill, $1,500. So I've got to fight him on it. I've known him for over 15 years, and he thinks that my relationship's that good that he can do that. So it's not going to happen. Not going to let him do that to me. So you'd be amazed what people can try to get away with. And you have to kind of stand your ground and hold them to that bid. Okay. Hannah Banana, hey guys, where's Mackenzie? Bring her back. Yeah, we need to bring her back. She needs to get on. We're trying to work that out. We've moved up on the mountain. We're so far away. We might try to see if we can't get her on in between and have her at a third location. So, go back to that message, honey. And I want to take a screenshot of that. I'm going to send that to Kinsey so she knows that she's wanted. Thanks. Tacos for us. I rented a dozer and an excavator. First time using heavy equipment. I dug 6K square feet a pond and compacted house pad, raising it 2 feet and graded out 2.6 acres. Cool. I'll bet you saved a lot of money. Thanks for all the content and inspiration. Yeah, that's one of the areas if you feel good with heavy equipment. Like if you've driven a truck on a trailer and you've backed up that and you have that kind of in the back of your brain as far as experience is concerned, and or if you've driven a Razor or a 4-wheeler or something like that, even a riding mower, you have a sense of heavy equipment that you can jump into something bigger and then sit in it and drive it. And this is not bad. And then move a big boulder or something. And if you can just spend a little bit of time, you can actually figure out how to operate some of this stuff. Okay, Elizabeth, you're amazing, so knowledgeable. That's too kind of you. I want to have a home built in Houston, Texas. Any recommendations on contractors like yourself in Houston, Texas? I don't have anybody there, unless my wife knows somebody.
There's a way I can look through some other networks, but this is a good point that maybe we should start networking up with other builders. But if you will email Keith at Kelsch Construction and get us your info, then we can send you some people that I'll look for some other connections I have through realtors. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, I have quite a few owner builders in Texas, but I don't know any builders particularly in Texas. Okay, honey, can you talk about heated slab floors inside a home? Which type do you like and why? I don't like any of them, and here's why. If you put a heated floor inside a slab, you really can never cut into that slab to move a toilet or do anything because you destroy the entire heating system. It's toast. And so, and if that slab breaks down or cracks and it has an effect on that slab, then you have another problem. I would rather insulate a slab rather than heat the slab. Now, that may not be the best option if you're in a very, very cold environment and you have a slab on grade, and you may want heat because in a cold environment, you're going to want your heat as low as you possibly can get it to the floor. But in a mild climate, in a warmer climate, that's not so much the case. So it varies. But even in a cold climate, I'd probably put forced air in the ground and I would insulate the slab, and I'd be just fine with that. And you'd actually save yourself some money. And then the only place I would put heat in the slab, if I ever did, and it's not that hard to do, tile setters do it all the time, is do it in the bathroom. So when you wake up, you walk in the bathroom, it's not a cold floor. You've got a heated floor just in that bathroom because that's where you've got bare feet and you want it warm in that particular area. And you know you're not going to change anything. And tile setters can actually, there's a system you can put in right underneath the tile, part of the lath that they put on, then they put the tile on top of that. And they have the wires that come right up on the wall, and then your electrician can make the connection and all that. That's the only place I'd put it. But like a liquid one, even a water heated one system, I just wouldn't even touch any of those two. A little too complicated and too many risks down the road. And I can build a just as efficient system by insulating the slab than putting that in. So Jay Jin, what is the time lag from high lumber futures to higher prices at the yard? That's a really good question. Um, I did an interview with the Uneducated Economist. We're hoping to have that video come out in just maybe a week or so. He's actually in the lumber industry. If you don't know that, you can find his channel, and he actually does futures and sells lumber for a living. So he knows that quite well. But I would think the lag is, and it can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, somewhere in that time frame. So if futures are up, then you probably see that later on. But right now, lumber yards are pretty savvy. So if there's less demand, they stop producing lumber to maintain a kind of consistent price. Even though lumber right now is down between 28 and 32% from its high, from its COVID high, it's actually down quite a bit from there. So lumber looks good right now. Lumber futures are not that good right now. There's not a lot of prognosis for a lot of building and a lot of explosion in the market. So, but keep in mind, lumber yards, mills, they reduce their employee numbers so they don't have that high overhead. And then they also reduce their output, but they try to maintain a consistent price volume, like $400 or $500 per thousand board feet, whatever it is. There's a number out there where they try to maintain so that they can actually maintain their profit and their return. And all they have to do is just adjust their labor. And so that's what they kind of do. So even though futures say this, and the only way futures can really affect you is suddenly that the interest rates drop 2 points. And what would happen if interest rates dropped 2 points like that? Within 3 months, you're going to see an explosion in lending and then people doing projects and wanting to build. And that puts a huge demand on lumber. And as a result, boom, your prices start to spike. So that's what I watch for, is interest rates more than lumber futures. Okay. Good question. Tacos for us. Don't forget to like. Yes, please like, subscribe. We like that. Michael, site prep, tree removal. Remove tree and stump. How should the contractor be pricing this? By the size and quantity of trees, something else? That's a really good question. Some people in the excavation world can really take advantage of you. I know of an excavator who took out some huge demoed a home and charged over $35,000 for it. Got it done in a week. It was literally done in a week. Now I know that heavy equipment, like there's a big, huge backhoe across the street. I don't know if you can see that big, huge backhoe. That backhoe up there, it looks like a cat. That's probably $300,000-$400,000 brand new. You can probably buy them used for around $180,000 to $200,000. But if it's well taken care of, that thing should be productive for 20 years, 20 to 30 years if it's really taken care of and all the hoses are done well. So it's probably paid off. If you bought something on that, you could probably pay it off in 5 years if you got a lot of sufficient work. Now I know that's costly to maintain, costly to purchase, and all that. I have heavy equipment myself, about half the size of that equipment. I've paid off my equipment quite some time ago. I made some good money on it. And so it's really hard for me to see charging somebody $30,000 to pull a foundation that they removed in just a week. And I know that the dump fees are this and that. But at the same time, I understand the business side of things and the cost of maintaining and performing business. But if your prices are so high, you're not getting a lot of work. Now, I know a particular excavator who called me this week looking for work. And I'm saying to myself, you couldn't secure more work up here? And here's some inside scoop on the whole system that will answer Michael's question. I gave a particular subcontractor contacts for other people to bid. Okay. And I told him what the bid number was. Let's just say it's $30,000. That's what they were given bids on from other subcontractors. His bid came in at $29,000, and they still felt that that was being taken advantage of. They still felt that was high. So another excavator came in here and got 4 or 5 homes all at once. And obviously that excavator bid much low, worked with the clients and says, I tell you what, I want you to network with your people. I can do this, this, and this home, and I can give you all a rough estimate of around 18,000 or something like that, but only if I can get all of them all at once, because it helps with my economy of scale. And so that's where you have to think in terms of the business side of things. So tree removal, remove tree stump and stuff like that. If he can get more work in the location, great. Or to me, just go rent a little mini X and pulling those stumps myself, putting them off to a pile, and then maybe even hire someone to haul them off. So to me, as a builder, sorry if I'm going over on this one, I look at that and I say, I can do that myself. I'll do that real quick. Even if I have to rent that stuff, I could rent it and be done with it. And so don't be afraid of in exploring the options I'm kind of telling you about. So if I could see the site, I could tell you right away. That's something I wouldn't touch. But if it's just 3 or 4 stumps, yeah, I could pull those out pretty quick. So.
And that goes to say why you should get 2 to 3 bids, because then you can see if somebody's just off their rocker.
Yeah. A lot of people, they're busy enough to not bother. And so they'll just, it's like spaghetti, and just fling it at the wall and see if it sticks. And if it sticks, oh, that numbskull, they took my bid. And so, I met a client, really nice client, and he wanted me to do his work. And I says, I don't do remodels. And he says, why don't you just bid it out for me? So I did, and I bid it out. My percentage was a lot higher than I normally do. And he goes, this is kind of higher. I go, yeah, because it's a remodel, and I don't typically do remodels because they're kind of a headache on new construction. He says, I want you to do it anyway. So he signed the agreement. And so it was a headache. It was a lot of work. It was more work than a new construction, to be honest with you. And so there's a cost there, but I'm not chasing that kind of work unless it comes to me and it wants to agree to my contract. So get some bids, get different bids. Mr. Independent, how do you break down your plumbing draws? 3 typically. Underground, rough, and finish. So underground is all the plumbing that comes under the home, either in a stem wall or slab on grade. That's one. The second one is all the rough interior to the framing structure. And then the third one would be finish. Now, they might have it in a fourth. If you need temporary water, a temporary spigot, that plumber might send you a small little bill. Yeah, we got you temp water ready to rock and roll. But most of them will incorporate that into the first draw, which is underground rough in. So typically 3. Leanne, what are the chances that a lot of past perk tests, perk 10 years ago, will perk again? If it hasn't been disturbed and there's proof of that, then they may honor that. However, a lot of geotechs don't like to let a perk test be approved if it's longer than 10 years, because they can't certify that soil is the same soil. Now, a good geotech will take pictures of the strata, take pictures of the site, and have that on record. Then they can say, oh, I'll tell you what, let me look and see if the site has been disturbed or if it's still the same site, and I can maybe honor that perk test. That's why it's good for them to document more details of that original perk test when they first did it. But talk with your geotech. I've run into that. I've run into perk tests that are 5 and 7 years old, and some of them honor it and some of them don't. So I'll check with them and ask them. Squirrelentology, that's a cool name. Question, replace or repair when speaking about cracks in concrete or cement or bricks. Your tips are what you always do when it comes to cracks. If it's a crack in a wall, and if it's just a hairline crack, it's not going to go anywhere typically because there's rebar in there. And it's not a matter of if, but when concrete cracks. It's going to crack, okay? The secret is all the rebar they have inside there is going to keep it from going like that. You just want it to be like just a small hairline crack if it's going to crack at all. And so it depends on how insane or how intense that crack is going to be. And then if I do repair it, there's all kinds of ways to do that. I've seen a lot of really interesting repair work with rebar and epoxy, where they literally carve out a piece inside the wall, if it's a wall, and they weld a piece of a metal and they put it inside there and they epoxy it, and that helps hold it together. There's a lot of really neat things they can do. For example, up here where I'm currently at right now, a lot of people are pulling out foundations, okay? And somebody comes by, tests the foundation. Oh, it's kind of weak because of the fire. Look, there's a little bit of spalling. And so when they destroy the stem wall, they also destroy the footing. Well, the footing didn't have any damage to it. No fire got down to the footing. It's buried into the ground, 12 inches down, 24-inch spread footing. There's dirt all the way around it. So it didn't get destroyed. Only the concrete wall, stem wall or basement wall, really got exposed to that high temperature. So why pull the minute you hit that stem wall to demo it, you take out all the good footing. So I came up with an idea, and my engineer thought I was brilliant. He says, why don't you just form on the inside of the foundation, just form on one side, pour a whole new wall, but epoxy rebar inside that footing, and have a whole new wall on the inside of the foundation. It's sitting right on the side, right on top of that foundation, on that footing. You save on the demo, you save on all these different costs. And he thought it was pretty brilliant. We could have saved a lot of people 30, 40,000 on the complete demo of a home, especially with a home embedded into the foundation, embedded into the dirt with a stem wall or concrete basement that's completely inside the dirt. It's not like a walkout basement. So thinking innovatively is something that happens when you bring structural engineering, a builder's experience, some geotech all together and you talk. But if it's just one person out there, like a geotech going out there and talking, they're not thinking. They're not thinking about the cost. They're not thinking about excavation costs. They're not thinking in terms of the budget that's really available to the people. They're not thinking in terms of the builder and what's innovatively what can happen. The more you network, the more you talk with people and get as much feedback as you can, the better off you're going to be. So, sorry about the long diatribe there.
Keith, most of the time people worry about their driveway, even though that's a separate pour. Mm-hmm. But is there a time when that cracking or some other cracking, do you have it? I know sometimes with inspectors with homes, they usually say if it's a quarter thick, I guess it depends on where it's at too, right? If it's the driveway or if it's inside a foundation, but
the driveway is something that, let's say you've got your home and you started framing your home, okay, and you've already got all your underground done, so you're not going to dig in your driveway, all right? I utilize the course of construction to compact the driveway. So I use the driveway, I make sure it's graded, it's compacted, then some rain, maybe some snow comes, and you keep driving on that. And the more you compact that driveway before you actually pour, the better off you're going to be. But you have to make sure that you've got the grade you want, all right? You don't want to dig into a driveway and then pour your concrete and have some weakened soil underneath there. The more you compact that, the better off you're going to be. So I use the course of construction to get the compaction I need. I treat a driveway just like a foundation. So what do you do on a foundation? You dig down, you compact every foot, you lift, compact, get a test, compact, you lift it up until that soil is really, really, really solid. And then of course, when it's time to pour, I have it compacted to such a lower level, maybe 3 or 4 inches below its typical level that I want it, Then I throw some road base on there, put some water, roll on it, compact it some more, and then I put my driveway on there. All right. What you don't want to do is to put your driveway on soil that hasn't settled and compacted. So if you dig a big trench under your driveway, like I've got a driveway in a home just across the valley, I've noticed over the past month, after we put in the power line, which is a big, huge power line like that, we put in water and all that, I can see how the driveway just caved in that particular area. We had a little bit of a rain, and the big equipment driving up there, it's compacted in that particular area. And so that's what you want. You want it to all be finally compacted and not just be so eager to pour that driveway. So give it some patience and treat your driveways just like you do the foundation of your home. Michael, how much should I be paying an electrician to install 400 amp panel and wire up the home, 3K square feet, single story? Oh, good question. I don't know why you need a 400 amp panel on the 3,000 square foot single story. You only need a 200 amp panel. The 400 amp panel is going to cost you almost $1,000. During COVID, it was $3,000 for a 400 amp panel. By the way, I have one of those. I'm waiting for another COVID to come along so I can sell it. But you don't need 400 amp panel unless you have a lot of welding or something, or a business as a side thing inside a garage or something like that. But a 200 amp panel, and that could be anywhere from $16,000 to $30,000 depending upon your market area. It's just my best guess. So, Spice Dragon, what do you do when subs want you to sign their contracts and you have your own? That's a really good question. I rarely sign subcontractor contracts. Once in a while, I'll sign them if it's a special order thing and they've got to special order it and I've got to get it in here. But most of the time, I don't. I just tell them your bid is approved. We start in 3 months. Please expect work in 4.5 months or something like that. And then they put it on their schedule. They know my process. I know their process, and there's kind of a relationship there. But if you sign their contract, they could actually hold you to it. And then if you choose not to use them, if they don't release you from the contract, they can actually come after you and say, hey, you approved this contract, and so we need to come after you for it. There's some people like that. There's some people that live and breathe strictly by contracts, not quality of workmanship, not follow through, not communication, and not relationships. So those are the types of people I kind of avoid, to be honest with you. I'm more of a relationship. That's my niche. In my business networking group this morning, I said, my niche is relationship. I like to get to know people. Like I had clients here earlier today. I like to sit with them. I like to talk with them. They need to get to know me. I need to get to know them. The more they're comfortable with how I operate, then they feel comfortable, and I feel comfortable with them. And that's my niche, is feeling comfortable with my clients. And if they're comfortable with me and I'm comfortable with them, then that's my niche. But if I'm uncomfortable with them and they want to make it difficult for me, that's not my niche. And that's when I get a little more aggressive with my contract. I say, okay, this client's going to make it really difficult for me. So I actually craft my contract a little more aggressively to protect me, because I really don't want to go into this. So I can tell you story after story when it comes to that. But whatever you have comfort with, if you're strictly a contract person, fine. But if you're a relationship person, focus on that and build on that. If you're a quality person and you're just looking for the best quality and you don't care the cost, then you're comfortable with that. Go with where you're comfortable. And so I hope that answers the question for you, Spice. J. June, I'm doing a roof 2-deck. What's the waterproof layering system and products you use in your home? I'm doing a roof to deck. Trying to think what that means. A rooftop deck and need 100%.
Yeah, a rooftop.
Okay. Oh, so the rooftop comes to a deck. Is that what you're saying? I'm just trying to think.
A rooftop deck. A rooftop deck.
Okay. Okay, rooftop. Oh, they're missing the P on there. That says rooftop deck. There's a lot of different products. You probably wanting just a thick TPO product. That's probably the best out there, and I would not try to install that myself. Roofers can actually cut that in and put it in a lot better than you can. Takes a lot of talent to do that right. And making sure that when your roof is framed, it's got a positive slope. And then where the water is going to run, capturing that water and getting it off the roof as soon as you possibly can. So talk with some roofing companies.
Yeah, because you want a warranty on that roof too.
Yeah.
You want them, the roofers to do it.
Yeah. And if it's a deck situation, then it's a decking material product. And that's kind of a liquid applied, and it wouldn't be a TPO product. They can be punctured by someone's walking on it or dropping a knife or something. You're going to want, it's probably a liquid applied product, and there's all kinds of products out there. I can't even go into how many there are, but you want to find a decking company that if it's a roof and it's a deck at the same time, and you can walk on it, then there's conditioned space underneath it, meaning living space underneath it, then it's not going to be a TPO product. It's going to be a liquid applied product. And there's lots of, there's pebbles, there's the same kind of product you put on your floor in your garage. There's all kinds of products out there. Probably an epoxy product would be the best for you, one that can handle UV light. Fly Jum, hey, welcome. My local code is requiring MEP plans at submittal for permit. That sucks. Everyone I talk to says the designers don't really offer those in the house plans. Who should get those before plans are submitted? Well, your architectural should handle your electrical, okay? And ask the permitting office if they allow for hand-drawn MEP plans, meaning plumbing and HVAC. MEP means mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Those three different subcontractors. That's all it means. All right. Well, the electrical should be included with your architectural plans. Most of them do that. Okay. So all you have to deal with is your plumbing and your mechanical. Your mechanical will show nothing more than the plans should show a mechanical room. Then the MEP plans will show your air duct system. Okay, I got 6-inch here, I got 8-inch here, I got return air here, I have a 24-inch return air, and they can draft that on a simple plan. Most permitting offices require a gas plan. And the gas plan, when the piping comes in, it shows coming into the house 1 inch, reducing to 3/4 by the H for the heating unit, then going maybe to 1/2 inch to here, 1/2 inch there, and then it's showing that in a simple diagram on the home. Ask your permitting office if they accept a simple PDF edit on top of the main floor plan or the design plan of the home. And if that's the case, then you can draft that yourself and then you can submit it. If they're asking for an actual MEP engineer, you don't want to go there because that's going to be so costly and it's ridiculous. And MEP engineers are not worth their weight in gold, not even close. None of them have any experience doing or installing any of those electrical, plumbing, or mechanical. None of them have that experience. The only MEP engineers that are really worth their weight in gold or worth their weight in anything are those that deal with big, huge high rises and they're really paid for knowing what to do. But when it comes to residential, it's a different beast. It's not multiple floors where they duplicate the same thing over and over again. It's a whole different design. And so ask them if you can submit MEP plans separately, one electrical, one plumbing, and one for mechanical. And if you can submit them separately and have them PDF edited on the plans, you can save yourself a lot of money. And you can actually sit and work with a mechanical guy and sit there, work with a plumbing person and say, okay, where's the 3-inch coming in? Where's it reducing into this? Where's the water coming in and all that? And they can help you with that. Okay. David Parker, have you ever built with shipping containers? No, I'm kind of not interested. It's metal, which is a terrible conductor of heat and cold. So you still have to give what's called a thermal break on both one side, the inside, to create insulation. And then by the time you do that, you only got a little bit of insulation like that. And to me, I'd rather have the full flexibility of designing something without being constricted into a container situation. I can see it can be done beautifully, and there's some great ideas out there, but I don't like to be confined to a container. I'd rather just be free floating and traditional stick built. A good question. Honey, so do you believe in cold Michigan winters? Baseboard heat with an omniblock house and insulated slab is best. Yeah, if you can insulate that slab, that's going to be phenomenal for you. Just a 2-inch polyiso foam board underneath the slab, and that has a high compression rate. You have an incredible PSI strength underneath that slab, and that's going to insulate that slab, especially in cold Michigan. It's going to be phenomenal. The other thing you can do is if you don't insulate the slab, you can insulate the stem wall because you have a frost depth there. And I'll bet it's close to 40 inches, 35 at the least. And you have a stem wall going down into the ground. You insulate the inside of that stem wall, and then you pour your slab. So you're not going to have cold wicking coming in through that stem wall and making that slab cold. That's a more simpler way to do it rather than try to insulate the slab. You can do both, the stem wall inside and then the slab on top of that. You're not going to have any cold wicking coming up into the floor. Keep in mind when it comes to cold environments, it's the first 3 feet inside a doorway near the outside wall. It's that first 3 feet. That's where you feel the cold coming inside that home. So you can insulate that better. Base heat, I would prefer to go underground if your soils and all of that great. A full PVC system where it's completely enclosed, meaning there's no air gaps or way water or even bugs can get into that vented system underground. If you did both of those, that'd be very, very efficient. Baseboard heat, no, they can come and go. I'm not interested in. I don't like to look at them. They take up floor space, but it depends on the system. Good question, though. Rob, ordering rock wool top rock from across the country, and it's 22,200 just for shipping. Any comments on shipping cost tricks, sourcing through local QXO supplier? Look into Power Wool. They're in Canada, and I got some good prices on them. Rock wool is only limited in a couple of places in manufacturing in Washington. I haven't found any resources of it being manufactured back east. So I think that might be part of the problem. I think Power Wool is right up in the central part of Canada, closer to Quebec, if I'm correct. I'm not sure. But they gave a good price on that. Check out Power Wool and mention How to Build Your Own Home when you call them. Okay, JJ, are you going to continue the building science series? Very helpful. Yes, we have. I've been drafting some of those. First, I'm trying to fix and make some improvements on my course inside my course. And as I do that, then I will start to add them to that. And then I'll start doing some brief videos on that and then drawing people to the course. I just added, by the way, a new checklist on building a home with Class A fire rated. And if you're in the course, it's already uploaded. It's there in the course in the building science section. Okay.
Okay. The reason why I did this is because Laura's asking about the bookshelves. So Laura, give me a couple hours, and once this live is finished, and then I'll put it in a link in the description. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, my wife put those together. My wife built those. I didn't build those. I don't have patience for that. So, good question. Good question there. Let's see, Corey. Hey, welcome, Corey. How do you deal with water rights, especially in dry states for drilling a well? Are they always included with the purchase of the property? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And it depends on if they maintain that water right, if they maintain their fee. Water rights are very, very separate from a lot of things. They're not even found with the county recorder's office. They're separate from a lot of that. And you have to do, I would work with what do you call it? A closing office, honey? What do you call that?
The title office, title agency. escrow. If you're in a different state, sometimes it's an attorney, but you
Yeah.
want to make sure those water rights come with you. And the older, the better.
Yeah. And so talk with an escrow company because they can actually track that down better than the county recorder's office are only about land. All right. And easements on that land, not the water rights. That's a completely separate entity. And get a title company to help research that, find that information for you, make sure that its fees are up. For example, there's a lot next to me that's empty. I would have to go to the local water district here and say, is that meter still tied to that property? And is there still water? No, they lost it 2 years ago. Why? Well, they didn't pay their fee. So we pulled that from the lot. And it's called a dry lot as a result. Well, if they paid their fee, would that be reapplied? Yeah, but there's some back fees they need to pay. If they do that, then we can apply the water back to the lot. I've started build on a lot that was a dry lot and I didn't know it. And I had to go through some headache to fix that problem. Once it was fixed, then we can move forward with the build. So a recorder's office, or not a recorder's office, but a title company, they can help you with that. They're actually more experienced at that than just about anybody.
But there's still some due diligence you'll need to do because it's true. You have water companies and then you have state water, especially if it's a well. You need to make sure, or if you have water that's for animals and then you want it for your residential, you have to have so many shares to convert it. So at least in Utah, you're going to have to call and talk to the state. And the gentlemen in Utah, they are so nice and they'll tell you everything. So once you get the water number, you can call up and talk to them and ask all your questions. But the title company will let you know if it's the state water or water company or whatever. But do your due diligence on water for sure.
Yeah, my wife brings up a good point. Sometimes water is irrigation, and somebody says, we'll sell you some land and it's got 25 acre feet of water or something like that. But it's not culinary water. So when I had some land up north, I actually converted 10 shares of water. They weren't called acre feet. They were shares at the time. And sometimes the share is equal to a number of birds or rain birds that you can have at any time during the course of the year. Well, I converted those to irrigation shares, and so that I could actually build something. So water is not the same. Water is different irrigation, and then culinary water is different. And sometimes you can swap them. But once you do that, it's kind of a permanent thing. You can't go back. But
I believe there's like 3. There's irrigation, then there's cattle.
Right.
There's animal, and then there's residential.
Yeah. So do some research. Water is a different beast. Very different beast. Good question, Corey. Michael, yay, a 50 amp breaker, 100 amp sub panel on the accessory building. Yeah. Yep.
Sorry about that. There's a big discussion in the chat.
Yeah.
Let me get down to another question. Let's see if this
I'm ordering Rockwool top rock from across the country and shipping us another. Any shipping tricks? Yeah, that's when we went.
We did that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the questions there.
Yeah, we got it just in time. We just here at the 6th hour, at the end of the hour. Like, subscribe. If you have not been to howtobuildyourownhome.com, go there. There's 2 things we give for free. We just put them on the website. Home site selection checklist at the top of the page, plus it's spotted throughout the home page. And then, of course, the fire rated home. If you're interested in building a home that's got some Class A fire rating, that's also for free on our home site. So check those out. If you haven't taken the First Steps course, please do that. The students that really go through that course and get it through all modules, they're better informed about the cost per square foot, and they know exactly what they're getting into. I just had a consult with some students up north, and they were really on top of it. They've been through all those modules. They knew where their price point was per square foot, and they knew what they were trying to hit as far as the total cost to build their home. It was really pleasant to work with them and talk with them. So First Steps course, take it, and you're going to be phenomenal.
A real quick question. Michael just asked.
I answer those as soon as they come in within the 24-hour period. And I answered quite a few of those this morning. So check. And if you're in the course, the self-managed course, and you're in a particular module, could be foundations or whatever, you can ask a question relevant to that particular module, and I will answer that within a really short amount of time. And the neat thing is we're building up a lot of commentary and feedback from a lot of other students tied to specific areas in the course of the build. So yeah, that's why the self-managed course is so powerful. It's got a lot of different resources and a lot of other commentary. So, and yeah, go to the How to Build Your Own Home, take the First Steps course, and then the self-managed course is the most affordable and the best organized course you'll ever have to be able to manage to build your own home without a general contractor. And that's the biggest cost savings in building a home, is doing it without a general contractor. So see you guys next week, and we'll be here. Have your questions ready next Thursday from 5 to 6 Mountain Standard Time.
Really quick. Yes. Just give us an email and we'll extend the course, and you don't need a fee.
Message the instructor, and then I extend it another 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. Good question.
See you guys. Take care.